Okay, so I'm ready now to put some French polish on the top, and I do it at this stage because I'll have to put on the French polish first, and then I've taped the area where I'm going to glue the bridge on, and it's much easier to glue on the bridge when I still have it like this, and just before I glue this to the body. Otherwise I would have to reach in with some very long and clunky clamps through the sound holes, and I've done that in the beginning, but it was always kind of a mess, and I really like it much more when I glue it on in this stage, and then it's also easier to install like a couple of like the different pickups, like the undersaddle pickup. You have to drill a hole here and fiddle all the things through and everything, and so I do it at this stage, and later on I'm gonna glue it on the body, and then I'm gonna shape off the frame, and then just finish the frame. And that's like the cool thing about French polish. You can basically only finish one part and then continue weeks later with and kind of continue on the outer parts. So it's very nice because it's very reversible, and you can work it back and forth. And okay, to start we need to make us a polishing pad. And I have like a container with several of those. I'm going to show you how it looks. So inside there's like this ball, and then I just put like a piece of cotton on it. And the ball, this one is quite used up, so I'm gonna do a new one. And everybody got the material for it, because it's like these bandages like you got in your first aid kit, and I found out that they are like perfect for this. So we get out bandages. This one is quite messy, but still work. And basically we just fold it a couple of times and form like a ball. And it's gonna be like a very nice and fluffy and soft pad, and I really like the pad to be like nice and soft. I bend it. I don't really have like a certain way I do it, but you don't want the fabric to fold too much, so you want like a nice even round surface, and you want it to be quite loose and fluffy. There's no better word for it. So, and about this size, that's about perfect. And then I take like rubber bands. I take two because sometimes they kind of dissolve from the alcohol and get like they tear, and cut it off. And for the first, like the pore filling, I like to use a quite thick piece of cotton, and it's like a t-shirt. It's like a tank top or something, and it's very elastic, so there's like some elastan in it, and I like it much more than like this linen. People use linen because it's like very tough, but it's also very rough, and it doesn't make such a great surface. And later I'm gonna use a little finer one, and it's also nice and stretchy. and when I put it around the pad, it makes like really nice ball. So I take a little bit of that, and there you get the pad. And yeah, basically everyone has the materials for that. And now we gonna look at the finish polish. So this is a quite thick mixture. So what I do is normally I dissolve it like to a full saturation. So I put in the flakes and let it basically soak up all the shellac. So it's like it doesn't take up on anymore. And then I put like a third of alcohol back in it, and that's about the viscosity I want to have. And for the first step, for the pour filling, I'll need a little more alcohol and pumice. Okay, so we got alcohol, and this is my pumice pad, and it's like a piece of cheesecloth, and there's the pumice in it, and it's like really fine dust, and it's like a specific stone, and yeah, it's used to fill the pores. So the first step we begin now is to load up the pad. And you can be quite generous at first. Let it soak in. And I like to add a little bit of alcohol in the first part. Mix it a little bit. It's a little bit thinner. And because the wood is it's completely dry, and it will suck up all the polish. So one thing to mention is that I've sanded the top very high. So I first sanded it to like 320, and then I made it like a little bit wet and raised the fiber, and then sanded it again, and then I sanded it up to like 1200, and it's like super nice and fine, and it really helps to speed up the process of the pour filling, because that's like the most time intensive part. And I'll just start to apply some polish, and it really doesn't matter much how you do it. The important thing is that your pad isn't like dripping, so it's just taking up this much, and not like it's not laying on top or something. I think I'll get something to under there. So also when you do the first coat, it's nice to have it like nice and thin, so it really penetrates the wood and soaks in quite deep. Okay, put something under there. the first coat is quite a lot of alcohol and just a little bit of the shellac. And always load the pad, like remove the cloth and then load the pad and then put it back on. So you got it like nice and even distribution of your French polish or your shellac in the pad. I think one more. Not so much alcohol this time. And I won't care so much about the frame, but yeah, still gonna do the polish like into the frame, because later I'm gonna just touch the frame when I'm gonna work the shape out, and try not to hit the screws. So later I only have to finish the frame, and yeah, the plum is much easier to finish because it got way less pores and will be quite fast then. Okay, I think there's enough French polish on there, and now I'm gonna use some oil and some pumice to fill the pores. So first, just put on a little bit, and this will also fill like the gaps in between the cloth, and mix with the shellac and the oil, and kind of create kind of a little of a barrier, or yeah, membrane. And your main concern here is to not overdo it with the pumice, so you don't have any build-up, so you only want to fill the pores. And we're gonna use the French polish that's on the top already and hasn't completely dried, so it's a little bit wet still. And then use that to bind the pumice into the pores. And you can put a little bit of alcohol on the pad. Again, a little bit of pumice, and always the oil. And then like very gently go over it and kind of leave the pumice on there. so you don't want to have any build-up on the pad and any like build-up on the top. So you want nice and even like distribution of the pumice. So okay, once more. Maybe add a little bit of shellac in there just to help it bind. Kind of mix it on the pad. Okay, don't know, it's a little bit hard to see. Even from me, you gotta look like kind of over the top and against the light, and you see how far the pores are filled. And I think I'll need some more, and you see it starts tearing, and that's why I make it a little bit bigger. I just move it to another place. Some people put the pumice on the top, but I feel it's much cleaner if you put it on the pad and let the top take what it needs and not more. So that's like the rule of thumb with all the steps. Only apply as much as you need and not more. So here I got like a little bit of build up of pumice, and it will make the top look dirty, and I'll have to go over that and kind of work it out. I think I got enough pumice, so I'm turning it around. A little bit of oil on it. And I'll just push around the pumice and the polish to kind of fill the pores. So I feel I got some build up, so I'm gonna try to work this area so the pad is soaking up the excess. Okay, so when I look against the light, I still see like some little spots, but it's yeah, already beginning to shine. So now I can put on a little bit more. But I don't need any pumps anymore. So quite a lot of oil. I also like to use like different motions, not always like the circles, or you can like the 8. And I'd like to work against the grain, basically to finish the coat and then do the next one. Okay, the sun's coming out. Maybe I can capture a little bit of the reflection. And it's already quite glossy. I don't know if you can see it. And the pores are almost filled, and now it's only to build up the coat. But at this stage I still want to go slow and basically push the material that's on the top around a little bit. So quite little polish and quite a lot of oil. And the oil really helps to mediate between the top, what's already on there, and what you're gonna lay down. And the main thing is that you don't lay down too much, and always like work slow. Always keep like a nice and clean surface, and the slower you go, the faster you will be finished, because every coat is gonna dry separately, and the thinner the coats, the faster it's gonna dry. If I take a brush and just brush it on, it will take like half a year to dry, and if I do it like this, it's basically drying instantly. So at this stage it's quite nice. The pores are basically filled, and I got like a little bit of build up, like some stripes in here, and I'm gonna try to work them out using some sandpaper, like a little sandpaper trick. Okay, so here's a little trick that you haven't seen before, I think, and I've got like some colorations here because I apparently used a little bit too much pumice, and there's gonna be some build-up and be nice and even. And I'm gonna do a little trick. So I've got these micromesh sandpapers, and they're like some silicone or matrix or something, and it's quite high, like 2400. And you basically at this stage can already start to kind of level the surface. So the surface is already, I can touch it because there's quite a oil film on there, and I put a little bit of oil on the micromesh, and then I can use that to level the top. And yeah, that's like a nice thing to do after the pore filling, to get it back to like baseline. I sometimes do it in between coats, just like the normal spraying lacquer. You have to sand in between coats. You don't have to with the French polish, but I like it so all the marks from before will be even out. And as you can see, you can do it in between the coat as well. Just put some oil on it. I'm going to use the soft part of the sanding block. Okay, looks much better now, and I will apply another coat. Lower it again with some shellac, a little bit of oil. There's quite some oil on there, so I don't need that much. And you kind of can stay at like a certain area for a while, and this will help you create like a nice even coat, because you kind of working it like it's hot or something while it's hot. So also like move quite slowly. Okay, when I look over the light, it's already quite glossy. The pores seem to be completely filled, and that's how it should be. So I'm doing the upper part. You might notice that if you've watched other French polish tutorials, I don't really have a vapor trail. So if you, it's maybe because like the light or something, but I don't really have the vapor trail because I'm not using a lot of alcohol. So it's very dry. The shellac has like very little alcohol in it, and I don't put a huge amount of alcohol on the pad anymore. Basically, I don't put any anymore, and I use quite a bit of oil to compensate. So I go quite dry, but I use more oil, and therefore I don't have like this vapor trail. And what it does, it's I put on the layers I put on are quite thin, and I don't have like this residue of alcohol on there that's gonna create this trail. So because I don't want to have like any more on the top that I need. So when I use more alcohol, kind of creates these tracks and these marks, and you kind of see the strokes that you did. So if you work it like against the grain, you will really see like marks. And when you do like the next coat, these marks are still gonna be there, and it's gonna be really hard to polish them out. So one method would be to polish them or to sand them out before you start polishing. Use like the micromesh method. Or in my case, I always try to have it as shiny and as little marks as possible when I start with the coat. So I do like 3 coats. This is like the first one, and on each coat I want to have like very nice surface and not many marks on it, so I can start to apply the next coat quite immediately and don't have to worry that the marks from the last coat will shine through. And it's also gonna make the polishing in the end much faster. So I think I'll do like an last load up of the pad, and then I'm gonna polish it out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the oil inside the pad, and it's gonna mix with the French polish, and really gonna help to get like a very thin coat in there. That's something I accidentally did. When I'm loading the pad, I wanted to put on the shellac, and I accidentally put on some oil and tried it out, and it worked very well. It was like one of the last coats, and yeah, now I'm using it. Okay, check. And at this stage I just want to basically polish it out. Always polish out your pad. Never leave it wet or with some leftover on there. It's also gonna make sure that you created a nice surface for the next coat. Okay, so the main cloth I've used to pour fill, it's quite, yeah, it's got some holes in it, and I'm gonna switch to the finer cloth. And first need to load again. And this will soak up a little bit, and I want to let it kind of dry a little bit on the surface. You see, it's basically sucking up the oil, and there's no build-up on the pad. So when you have a fresh pad, there's no build-up, and it takes a while, basically while polishing. So kind of solidifies a little bit on the fabric, and this will also help you to get like a really nice and even spread of the French polish later. It's basically a membrane that builds up and only lets you put on as much as needed and not more. So I want to focus a little bit on the center of the top, where the bridge is going to be, because that's later the spot where I won't be able to make some corrections. change the camera angle a little bit so you can see better what's going on. And yeah, that's like the first coat, and it's already quite shiny. So basically the pore filling is like the main thing to do. And then you just need to build some up to be able to use some polishing compound in the end. So that's also something I do. I like to use like this micromesh in the end, and then use some special polishing compound to polish it to a real high gloss. And you need some material on there to build up. And my pad is like, it's like super dry. I can basically touch it and it's like not 100% dry, but it's quite almost dry. And that's really gonna just varnish the surface. I don't put on anything at this moment. I'm just pushing it around. And the danger with this method is you don't want to stop, and when you stop, you're really the pad's gonna be glued to the polish, and then you're gonna rip out some polish, and that's like really bad. So that's like a little bit caveat here. Okay, so I think that's good for now, and the pad is quite dry, and I'm not doing anything anymore at this point, so I leave it like that. I also don't want to build on more, so this coat is basically only pore filling, and it will be almost completely dry tomorrow, and then I can put on the second coat. So always trying to dry the coats separately, and it will make the whole process much faster. So that's it for today, and I'm gonna continue tomorrow. Okay, now it's day 2 of the French polishing, and as you see, it's already quite nice and shiny, and I filled the pores yesterday. And to start off, I want to kind of lightly sand it again. with this 2400 micromesh. Just to level the top again. So all we want to achieve is like a plain surface, so and the sanding really helps to get you started. And you're not really taking away anything. Okay, I think that's enough. Take my pad again. Load it up a little. Put on a drop of oil. Okay, I got a little bit different perspective here. Maybe it's always hard to see the reflections and what you're actually doing. And it's always hard to find like the right light setup to hold it in the right angle to the light, in this case the sun. So I think it will be much better to see now what I'm doing. Also for myself, it's always good if you see what you're doing. So I noticed that the top is quite oily, so I won't add more oil to the pad. It's basically enough in there. At this stage I like to focus like on different areas, so first polish like this area, then this, and then the upper one, and kind of stay at one spot for a little bit longer, so you can really work it like it's still kind of wet, and we're able to basically polish it while applying the polish, so to speak. Hard to explain, but and as you can see, now it's got a little bit of build up on the pad. You want to be careful when applying the shellac, so you don't have get a drop on the top. Would be not so good. So you can see from these circular motions I got like these little marks in there. And now I try to go across the top to basically flatten them out. Now they are much less than here, so while it's still kind of wet, you are able to basically flatten it out still. So I would never stop a session having like those marks on. It's always better to deal with it at the moment when it's still workable. And the top is now quite sticky, and I put on quite a bit this coat, and now I want to basically just polish it out and get rid of the marks as good as possible. I think I've built up enough today, and I've polished it out quite okay. Like there's some marks in there still, but I can get them out, and it's not that bad. I'm just gonna sand it before the next coat, and in the end I'll sand it again with the micromesh, and then polish it, and they'll be gone. Yeah, but I feel I put enough on today, and maybe 2 more sessions, and this job will be done. You could stop like at this moment and wait a week and then polish, and you'll have like a nice surface. But I want to give the shellac a little bit of time to sink in. You will really see the grain of the wood coming out. And when that happens, yeah, it's basically dried, and then you can polish it. So that's it for today.